Alright, 2012 fall, Christmas season's coming. What phone should I buy? A lot of people ask me that question. It's probably the number one question that people ask me. From left to right, I have the top phones of the fall of 2012. Got a couple Androids, an iPhone, and a Windows phone. And we'll talk a little bit about each of these and what I would recommend that you guys do if you're a beginning phone buyer or if you're an experienced phone buyer. We'll get into all of it. Alright, so what are these phones? Well, this is an HTC One X. This is an Android phone, and it's offered on a lot of the carriers around the country as well as worldwide. This guy is top of the line from HTC right now. Excellent phone. This is a Samsung Galaxy S3. This is also a top of the line Android phone from Samsung, available across the US as well as around the world. This is an iPhone 5, newly released around the world, especially very popular in the United States. And finally, we have a Windows phone, an HTC Titan 2, which top-of-the-line HTC phone for Windows Phone, and this is available in the US and I believe around the world as well. So I can start this video off in telling you what phone not to buy, and that's any Windows phone that's currently on the market. And the reason why is because Windows Phone is going to go through a major upgrade this fall to Windows Phone 8. And all of the current handsets available on the market this fall, so October 2012, are not going to support that update. And so you want to stay away from these handsets. As great as they are and as much as I like Windows Phone, don't go down that road just yet. Wait until the new phones come out, like the Lumia 920. That's going to be an awesome phone. The HTC, I think it's their new 1 series for Windows Phone is going to be great. It's going to be the update to these guys. It's going to be very similar to the Android HTC that we have over here, but it's going to be running the latest and greatest Windows OS. Super nice hardware too. So for now, we will not talk about Windows Phone because it's not a great time to buy Windows Phone. So back to what we can talk about. Again, iOS and Android, the top two leaders in the smartphone market right now. How do you choose, right? They both look different, they both act different. Do they do the same thing? Well, we'll talk a little bit about each of those here now in a few minutes. So the biggest and most obvious difference between Android and iOS is the hardware. Okay, Android allows you flexibility, customization, and the option to choose any hardware you want and still run the same operating system. iPhone, you are stuck with iOS, you have one phone to choose from, and when I say that I add a little bit of an asterisk to my comment because you do have phones like the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S, which are slightly different from the iPhone 5, but in general are the same phone. They're, the screen has been updated on the iPhone 5, so they do have a little bit bigger screen, but all in all, an iPhone is an iPhone is an iPhone. And Apple likes to do it that way because they feel that the combination of hardware and software give the users the best experience. And I would tend to agree. There are things about the iPhone that I don't like, but this video, that's outside the bounds of this video. So for now, we'll just compare sort of more on the surface between iOS and Android and how you might want to choose the difference between the two. Android, nice big screens on these phones. You see a lot of the current Android phones have big screens. The displays are awesome. You get lots of bells and whistles. You get infinite customization, customability, if that's a word, in what you can do with your applications, with your home screens, how you use the phone. Totally flexible. iOS is a bit locked down in terms of what Apple will allow you to do with your phone. Some people like that, some people don't. Again, back to the hardware, Android allows you multiple choices of hardware. So like this HTC One X is a fantastic phone. I love this phone. I love the camera on this guy, 8 megapixels. I love the screen on it. Probably the best smartphone screen I've ever seen, even compared to the S3 and the iPhone 5. Just super high resolution, great quality, great text. It scales wonderfully. Awesome phone. And so a good example of the customization that can happen, if you look at the iPhone here, right, it's a square, or a series of squares, right? It's all my app icons, and they're laid out, they all look the same. And if you look at everybody else's iPhone, it kind of all looks the same, just like this. But Android, okay, these are two different phones, two different accounts. The screens are completely different, right? So you can set these up however you want. right? You can arrange icons on the home screen. You can add widgets. The option to customize Android is just limitless. And so, these are very Swiss Army knife type phones. They do everything. Anything that you can do in a phone, you can do with Android. And that's great. It's great to be able to have that flexibility and that latitude. But if you're not a super tech person, or if you're not going to go down the road of really getting to know your phone, you might not even use those features. You might not take advantage of S-Beam or whatever it is, where you can like touch two of these phones together and transfer playlists, or sending a video and making a text message at the same time. And those features are great if you're a bit of a phone person and you like to be involved with technology. But when it comes down to somebody that's maybe never owned a smartphone, has never had the option to use an iPhone, to see how simple it is, it's really nice to pick up an iPhone and to just play around with it. And so, there's something to be said for simple. A lot of people make fun of the iPhone because it only does certain things, or it's locked down. But the iPhone does a couple things, and it does it really well. It runs apps really well. It has a huge app catalog. It makes calls very easily, it sends emails very easily, and it browses the web very easily. And so as silly as that sounds, it's really quite nice for people to have a phone that just works and that they can rely on, and they don't have to worry about setting it up and doing IT work on it. So many people are afraid of IT and all the different bells and whistles and switches and options and configuration. And so take that into consideration too when you're thinking about buying a phone. So again, how do you choose between these? The one way I can give you is an example of refinement, okay? And if you compare Android and iOS in terms of a couple different areas, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, Android is sort of the more utilitarian, utility phone, whereas iPhone is very refined and does fewer things, but what it does it well. A good example would be watches, okay? You can classify Android as the Casio of watches, where you can classify Apple iPhone as an Omega or as a Rolex, okay? In terms of cameras, you can classify these guys, Android, as Canon or Nikon, and Apple iPhone as more of a Leica. Cars, you can classify Android as a Toyota and iPhone as a Lexus. And so people will probably get mad at those statements, but I think it's true, because I think that as good as Android is, and as much as I like it, it's a little bit buggy, it's a little bit less refined, it's a little bit more less polished. iPhone is very polished. It's a very, very nice product. It does things well. It's very smooth. It's very user-friendly. It's easy to use. A baby can pick this up, and an 80-year-old can pick this up and know how to use the phone. That's not necessarily true with Android. I have a lot of clients that tell me that they don't know how to use their phone. They're confused as to the way it operates. They want it to work better. They want it to be faster. And that's typical of the lower end Android phone. And so the only piece of advice I can give you is, if you're trying to choose between which Android phone to get, spend the money and get the higher end, high end, current top-of-the-line phones. You want the HTC One series. You want the Galaxy S series. You want to spend the money on these more expensive phones because they're going to give you an overall better user experience. You're not going to get the issues and problems that people get with lower-end hardware, where things are slow, things are crashy, the OS doesn't get supported by the operating or by the manufacturer or by the carrier. So you want to go ahead and spend the little bit of extra cash it's going to take to go from, say, a $49 phone to a $199 phone, for an upgrade on contract. It's going to pay off in the long run. You're going to have fewer problems, you're going to have a more enjoyable user experience, and you're going to be less likely to be disappointed with your phone thinking it's the operating system's fault. I see a lot of people that complain, oh, my Android sucks, or oh, my iPhone sucks, or it depends on the software version you're running, and it depends on the hardware. You want to buy the best hardware you can buy at the current time. And right now, that's Android 4 running on the Galaxy S3 or the HTC One series. And iPhone 5, iPhone 4S, both great phones. If you're curious about which iPhone to buy, you can check my other video for iPhone 5 and whether or not you should upgrade. Again, that's a little bit outside the scope of this video. We're talking more of a general phone purchase. So, again, it's a tough decision to make. A lot of people ask me about it, but iPhone great, Android's great. top of the line hardware, the one thing to recommend. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe.